This is the 2025 Genesis GV70 EV, a mid-size luxury SUV designed to take on the likes of the Porsche Macan and the Audi Q6 Etron. But does it do enough to take on those German rivals? That's what I'm here to find out today. Now, I personally really like Genesis cars and I think they've got a lot to offer. So let's dive in, give you a full tour and take it out on the road and see what I think. But before that, if you're looking for a used car, check us out at Players Cars Premium in the description below. If you're looking for a super easy used car buying experience, no need to wait for emails and faff around with stuff like that. Just direct contact through WhatsApp 24/7. They can source any car for you that you like. So if you're looking for something like this or another luxury family car, they'll be able to sort you out. Links in the description below. So then let's have a little look around it and talk about specs and pricing and stuff like that. So this new 2025 model year comes with a few differences, which I'll go on to in a little bit. But the main one that you may notice in terms of technical spec is that an 84 kilowatt battery replaces the 77 kilowatt hour battery, which gives you a new range of about 298 miles, which is still fairly low for this category of car now. A lot of cars are coming up with sort of the high 300s, so 298, not the best, but it does have up to 350 kilowatt charging, which means 10 to 80% in 19 minutes on a compatible charger, and a theoretical efficiency of around 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour, which I have seen, but it is a little bit lower than that normally. There is only one drivetrain option though, so 430 horsepower and 485 with a 10-second boost button on the steering wheel and 4.4 seconds to 60. So this thing is pretty rapid and all-wheel drive only. Pricing now starts at £66,000 here in the UK for the base spec Pure, which is the one that I have here today, but it still comes with a comprehensive list of features like power tailgate, highway driving assist, heated seats and steering wheel, and also their premier electronic suspension. So it's a road reading suspension that uses the cameras to identify upcoming sort of discrepancies and bumps and stuff and helps iron them out. Also has reverse cam and 19-inch wheels as standard. Next up is dynamic spec at 71k, which introduces 20-inch alloy wheels, the blind spot cameras, which I do personally think should be standard, and also head-up display and remote parking on the key. And then the luxury model, being the top end one, is £75,000, comes with panoramic roof, active noise cancelling in the cabin, ventilated seats, laminated rear glass and a B&O sound system. There are a couple of key option packs, so panoramic roof you can get for 1,500 quid on the mid trim. Napa quilted leather also is across the range for £2,500, which comes with this really cool ambient lighting called the Milky Way lighting in the doors. Otherwise you just get standard aluminium trim, and you can also get on the top trim a comfort pack for around £1,000, which includes ergo motion massaging seats and extra electronic bolstering and so on. Vehicle to load is also £890 if you wanted the additional plug sockets to power external appliances. The other good thing about buying Genesis is you get a 5-year care plan included from new, which includes warranty, also service with a pickup of the car and a courtesy car delivered, over-the-air updates with connectivity, so all of your apps work on the move, and roadside assistance. Also on this one I have metallic paint, which is an £800 option, but you can also get matte paint options for around £1,250. So let's have a little look around it then in terms of the actual styling. You've got this new front grille, which is really cool because what you might not see is that hidden in here is the charging port. So the charging flap is actually here. You can kind of see that it looks ever so slightly different. As you can see, there's this little button here. When you press it, it will open electronically. And this is also heated as well. So in the winter, it doesn't get frozen shut. So that's a nice touch. And it shows you your charge level here. And I like the fact that there's a button for it built right in. It works really well. And as you can see, it is actually super hidden in this new sort of chromed grille. I do prefer the sort of blingy mesh grills on the standard GV70, and I also prefer the standard wheels on the normal GV70 as well. I don't like these kind of more efficient looking wheels, these aero style ones. These obviously being the smaller 19-inch ones. You can get 20s on the kind of the next two models up, but I do just think they spoil the style of the car a little bit, but that's me being kind of picky. What you do get though is these new sort of more slimline headlights. So you've got these matrix LED headlights. You can see they've now got these kind of cubes in, which are a new array to make it a bit more accurate on the road and brighter. And then down the bottom, this bumper has been restyled and redesigned for the 2025 model year. It has definitely upped the styling a little bit, and of course you get that lovely prominent Genesis badge right there on the hood, and this metallic paint is quite nice as well, although it's not my favorite color of the range. But the generic shape of the car has stayed the same. It's kind of like a nice svelte SUV with an almost coupe-ish looking rear end. Now this is something that has also been redesigned for the 25 model year, which I prefer. You've got this new chrome trim down here, and you can see that we do have an absence of the indicators now, because thankfully the indicators are now built into these LEDs. Please do ignore the pulsing and flickering, it's just a trick of the camera, but I will show you a clip of what the indicators look like. That was my main gripe on the rear of the Genesis before, and I'm really glad they've listened to some feedback and started to integrate those into the main lights. I think it looks so much better. And you do unfortunately have some slight grille fakery down here, but all can be forgiven. It's really not the end of the world. I do just think the wheels spoil this one slightly, and some people aren't really sure about this kind of rear design. It's a little bit bubbly at the back here, but it is quite practical, and it means that the rear space in the cabin is pretty good too. I do think that these subtle changes for this new model year have really brought it up to scratch with some of the other cars, and I definitely think it's imposing on the road. Everyone does still ask the "is that a Bentley" question, which I don't think is a bad thing at all when you're looking at a car in this sort of segment and this sort of price range, up against some key rivals like the Q6 and the Macan. So let's step inside then. It's got keyless entry. The door handles, I think, they're a little bit creaky, and I'm not a big fan of those, unfortunately, but apart from that, the quality in here is absolutely astounding. So you can see this one is finished in this lovely cream and blue finish. We've got this nice stitching that runs along here with some ambient lighting baked in. You do have a bottle area, but it's quite snug, and then just a small door pocket, which isn't the best, but it will do. And then of course you've then got a door sill that says Genesis on it, and some quite plush carpets, so you can get in my shadow in the way there, but they're quite thick and quite nice. And then you do have pretty much the same cabin as before, but we do have some new tech and some new bits in here as well, which I'll go into in some more great detail. So let's step inside and see what it's all about. So inside the cabin then, you can see that this is really quite plush and luxurious. We do have these quite nice seats with a bit of plush padding on the headrest, and also some perforation on the actual seats there. And you do get the seat controls on the side, which you can electrically move the seats forward and back and recline from the driver's or rear positions, which is nice. And then you do also have a relatively small glove box. There's not much space in there, but it's like felt lined. And then a bit of contrast stitching on the dash, and you do have ambient lighting, 64 colours, that runs all the way around the cabin as well. Now, the sort of centerpiece here is this new display, which is a 27-inch OLED, which, as you can see, is continuous. There's no gaps, which is cool. It might appear a little bit weird on camera, and it's just because it's an OLED display, and that means that in real life the colours really pop, and also the kind of the contrast is phenomenal. So the blacks are really black, it's really rich and really deep, but it just doesn't translate to camera very well, so I do apologize. But I want to run you through some of its functions, because it is really good. So the actual use of it itself is really fantastic. You can either have a full screen map like this that literally spans the whole width of the thing, or you can go over and you can have Apple CarPlay. There's also settings in here as well to change your charging and so on. It's a very fluid interface indeed. Quiet mode is really cool. It puts the rear speakers on silent, so if you've got someone asleep back there, then it will just play stuff through the front. You've got the connected services as well, and you've also got terrain modes for the four-wheel drive system. What I do really like though is that there are options in here for the drive mode. So you've got two modes for the brakes, comfort and sport. Comfort mainly utilises regen braking, and then sport utilises the friction brakes more so to make it a little bit more firm and also a little bit more responsive under your foot. And then virtual gear shift is very similar to what you get in the Ioniq 5. They've pinched some of the tech from that. So it basically mimics like a 6-cylinder engine with gears. So it uses the sort of the torque of the electronic motors to simulate gear shifts, and it works really well actually. I'm going to demo that a bit later on. It's something you don't have to have on, and it's annoying that it's in this menu, but what I have done is I've put it to one of the shortcut buttons on the steering wheel. So this button here, when I press that, you'll see that it says activation of virtual gear shift. The other one over here, you can customize this one too. I've got that one set up to take me straight to the driving options for the driver assistance, so that I can quickly turn off the speed limit warning. So there's quite a lot of customization with those two buttons on the wheel, which is really nice. But yeah, this display is gorgeous. I think it would have been nice if it was a slight bit taller, but I see why they've done what they've done. There's no HUD in this one, but I really don't think you need it, because there's such comprehensive options when it comes to the displays. Now, what's also really good is we do have physical climate controls in here and some physical controls. All of these ones along here are touch, a bit like in Kias and Hyundais, but there is another start button that's programmable. There's also some physical buttons as well as a start stop button, and these are haptic, so when you press them you get like a nice vibration and you can hear it as well. And it's the same for this down here, very reflective in this light unfortunately, but you can see there's all of the options for driver only, all of your air conditioning, 3 different speeds for your auto, and 1 button to turn the whole climate control system on and off. This aluminium trim is quite cool as well, which is standard across the range. You've got a rotary selector here which is like crystallized for your park and drive and so on. The only thing is it does get a bit confusing using it with this. So this is the one that controls your infotainment, and I do really like that this is a thing, right? I like that this option is here. You can also nudge it in different directions. You can also use the trackpad on the top to swipe between screens and also write things on, and yeah, it's a really versatile tool and it's super useful on the move. It means that it's far less dangerous to use when you're driving along, but it can get confusing having 2 dials here. I would have kind of preferred that they'd moved this to the steering wheel like on, you know, Mercs and Teslas and so on. But you do have a button here for your camera. Unfortunately on this one it is just rear cam and not 360 cam, because this one doesn't have the 360 cam or the blind spot monitors. And also you've got your drive mode select here, as well as a few other buttons as well, and you've got fingerprint sensor. This is good for if you have several driving profiles. Some nice cup holders with little grips in, and then you've got a Qi wireless phone charger here. Only downside of this I think is that so you have to put your phone in sideways, and then it does have a little notch that you can put the cable through out of this center armrest section, which is nice, but it's a bit awkward having to place your phone in there after that. But another really welcome addition is this steering wheel. Now the old Genesis 2-spoke steering wheel I thought was really ugly and not very functional. This one is much better. This one, it feels nice, it's got the right level of bolstering, it's got some nice perforation on it. These buttons are gloss black but they're not smudgy. This button here is one of my favorite on any Hyundai, Kia or Genesis car. You press it once and the car will start to steer itself on the motorway, and it's super useful. You literally press it once to turn it off. It's one of the best systems on the market, full stop, in my opinion. And then on this side you do have like a BlackBerry style kind of like clicker here, so it's like a capacitive button, and what you can do is you can use that to track skip, or you can press it in and then it will control what you can see on this little display here. So you can have like the weather, you can have your trip information, which is really cool. So it means you've got a lot of customization then, and it's really intuitive to use, just swiping through like that. I really like the system. And then you've got volume control and your boost button here. So this is the one that when you press it, it gives you 10 seconds of additional power. So it ups the power to the full 485 horsepower. And you also do have knurled aluminium on the ends, which is really nice. Everything's really nicely damped. Unfortunately, no cameras for the turn signals on this one. Bit of an oversight. I think that should have been included on every model, because even high-end Kias and Hyundais have it, so it's a shame it's not here. But you do also have some metallic paddles on the back, which normally control your regen braking. So you can see just on the screen here, I've got it in iPedal mode now, which is 1 pedal driving, which is fantastic. Or if I press this one, it will then loosen the system so that I can drive it more like a traditional car. Or if you've got it in the virtual gears mode, you use these paddles as your gear shifters. So yeah, I think the cabin looks great. I'm still not a fan of this kind of oval shape here. This is like their original design, but at night with the ambient lighting, it looks good. And up here, you've just got kind of basic controls. There's no sunroof in this one, but it's all nicely finished and everything is kind of as you would expect it to be in terms of fit and finish. There's not much, I think, apart from the kind of the plasticky effect on some of the buttons, that really kind of irritates me about how nice it is in here. Everything is really solid and well put together and super comfortable. It's worth noting as well, you can also change this whole screen to a sort of dark black background, as you can see. So you can go for this much darker look, which is really nice on the OLED. And what I've got it set to is to do automatic, so it's dark at night, and then during the day it's really nice and this bright white color to match this kind of white interior cabin. It's worth noting as well, this cream and blue is a no cost option. You can also change this to like a gray and brown, or just all black if you want to, for no additional cost, which is nice. There is also the option to switch to analog gauges. So at the moment I've got my Apple CarPlay maps in the center section. If I switch it to analog, you can see that we then get an analog display for the speedometer, as well as the sort of charge and power on the left hand side there. So you can switch between the two quite easily, and there is also a button, shortcut button here to do that on the steering wheel, which is nice. So I'd like to do that on the fly sometimes if I'm just cruising along, because I quite like having that old school analog, but I'll leave it in the digital for now because it just gives us a bit more of a comprehensive view. But yeah, with Apple CarPlay plugged in, you see we can get a full screen here, and it also allows you to do maps on here if you want to. Let's step into the back and have a little look. at what we got going on back there. So actually quite a spacious little area, and you do have the same kind of plush carpeting, which is nice, and then you do have some netting in the back of the seats as well. Now this is built on a platform that is also used for the standard GV70, so there is a bit of a transmission hump area, but it's a shame it's not a fully flat floor, but it's not massive at all. You can see there's not much height to it, and there is some climate control in the middle there, and also a area for some USB-C charging, and you can also control the seat from back here as well, which is nice. Also got a pull down cup holder situation, which has the same grippers in as the ones in the front, and overall it's quite a nice quality back here, and you can tell that they've put a little bit of thought into keeping the design coherent with the aluminium trim and so on. The Isofix in the back here as well are also the ones that you kind of squish between the seat, so it could potentially ruin the leather over time. So stepping into the back of the GV70, I've got this set up in my driving position at 6 foot, and I've got a nice comfortable amount of space back here sitting behind myself. There is also some contour in the seats which kind of help if you're really pushed for space. It means that you've got that little bit of extra room for your knees. It's a shame there's not a little bit more of an incline for the thigh support though, because I would have to kind of move my legs around a little bit to get comfortable back here, but loads and loads of headroom as expected in this sort of size and shape of car. And the only other thing is the seat belts kind of protrude a little bit weirdly because of how they're positioned, but it does mean they're super easy to grab, which is nice. There is, however, a lever on the side which allows you to have several different levels of recline, including a fairly reclined position. So if you were to sit in this seat here with this seat all the way forward, you could probably get quite comfy, even though this isn't the largest of cars. Definitely not class leading, but it's spacious enough, and I get a nice view of this lovely interior. In terms of the rear cargo area, you can open it on the key or by pressing this button here, and we do have power tailgate standard across the range. Now, the only thing I would say is this is not class leading by any stretch. So in here you can see we do have though a really nice flat load floor, and this is also really high quality sort of carpeted area with a nice little bit that you can raise, and you can see there is a tiny bit of space under there, but generally not a lot. It's not got a big kind of boot well or anything, but this does click into place really nicely. And you do also have some additional bits over here. So this one does have the vehicle to load with the plug socket in the back, which is nice, and a bit of netting, and you also do have normal power outlet back here and some tie hooks as well, which tuck away nice and neatly. So there is some versatility there. You've got your charger, which comes in this really nice hard case, which I'm a big fan of, I'll be honest. And the only thing is as well is there's only a 60-40 split. So most key rivals do have the 40-20-40. So this one offers a bit less versatility, and it's definitely not the biggest boot in the class, especially because of the height of it, but it's still a really useful opening. So I think most people will be relatively happy. So you can pull the seats down just by yanking on these at the sides, and you can see they immediately fold completely flat, allowing for a really nice generous area. And this also retractable load cover, really simple to use, it just hooks into place, and you can also just remove this by pulling on that, and it's just like a tension rod, so it's nice and easy. The only thing is it's not as easy to stow away, but this kind of gives you a bit of an idea of what the space will look like as a whole. The only thing as well is these lock into place, so you do have to pull the lever in order to push them back up, which means I can't do it with one hand, which is a little bit awkward. And also they will lock in the most upright position, which is not really feasible to sit in. So really you need two hands to do this, which is a little bit fiddly. So it's not the most practical car of its class, that's for sure, but it's still a generous space. I think most people are going to be happy with the amount of space in here, as long as you really don't need that extra depth. So it's definitely not badly scoring, but it's just that you might want to look elsewhere if you want those extra practicalities. As you can see here as well, you do have a little bit of frunk storage area. It's literally just a small storage area, so you can see in here it's not deep at all. It's like, so there's like a tow bar in here at the moment, so it's a very kind of limited space, but it's nice that it's there, and it does have a little light, so might be good for some essential storage items, but not the charging cable, I wouldn't have thought. That being said though, this car is all about the driving experience, so let's forget about that bit and let's move on and get this thing on the road. So in the GV70 EV then, let's hit boost, let's go 0 to 60. Whoa, that's a lot of torque. 4.4 seconds, you can certainly feel it as well. There's the boost gone now, so I'm in sport mode at the moment, so sport mode makes things a lot more responsive, as you can see, but if I push it back down into comfort mode, the suspension really levels out and it starts to become a little bit more wallowy, more of a luxury experience, and the throttle response is dampened a little bit, so it's a little bit less sickening when you stamp on it. but this is definitely not as ideal for throwing yourself out of a tricky situation. This one has a bit more delay to that throttle input and stuff like that, but I would say that it is quite refined in here overall. You do get that laminated acoustic glass on the front, even on this base spec model, which is really nice. It's just a shame that it's not on the back as well. There's not much tyre noise, but I do think that if you had the upgraded 20-inch alloys, you would experience a little bit too much of that rumble, because yeah, there's a bit of transfer through the cabin on some of our really rubbish roads here in the UK, but I definitely think it would be made worse by that. It's definitely not anything to complain about though, and the suspension, you can tell, does a good job of leveling out thanks to that all-seeing eye as it's looking for imperfections in the road. It really does help with the potholes and things. It's not quite as good as some of these newfangled Chinese EVs that have the really clever air suspension, but it's good for a traditional setup, and you do feel an immediate difference between the different drive modes. The suspension is a little bit of an odd one because it can feel a little bit kind of firm and crashy around town at times, and when you come to a complete stop, the body does kind of wallow around a little bit, which isn't very reassuring in terms of the braking experience. There's a bit of vagueness to it and a little bit of delay in the chassis as well, like as you chuck it around, the body wiggles around a little bit with you, so it's not as direct as those competitors such as the Q6 Etron or the Porsche Macan, which I've driven both on track, and I've got to say those are really good for their weight. You know, they hide the weight of the cars quite well, even though they are heavy. I feel like this is less good at doing that, but that being said, the steering is still direct enough that you can play around with it, and it's not bad at all. Like, it still goes exactly where you want it to point. It's just more of a kind of wafty experience, but that's kind of what they're going for, right? So it's not going to be like your B-road basher, but for your day-to-day cruising along, I think that's quite a good experience. What I do really love, as I've mentioned before, is the one-touch steering assist feature. I love that on all Hyundais and Kias, but the pedals on the back of the steering wheel for the regen braking are present. At the moment, I've got it in iPedal mode, which does bring you to a complete stop. But I can go 3, 2, 1 or level 0, and now it frees it up completely, so there's almost no regen braking at all. But then there's also the virtual gears mode, which I will explore with you in a little bit. In terms of ergonomics, it's quite nice. I would prefer a little bit more space for my elbow, as in many cars, but the seating position is good, and visibility out the back is okay apart from the massive C-pillar, but I've got reverse cam on this one, so it's not really the end of the world. Yeah, it's definitely a bit floaty and wafty in this comfort mode. I don't have much reassurance in terms of the kind of the cornering capabilities. There's more body roll in the back corner than I would like, but obviously that's kind of what that mode is designed to do. And the ADAS systems are okay as well, like the speed limit warning bong is not too annoying, and you can set a shortcut on the steering wheel to go to the menu to turn it off. Sort of front assist isn't too intrusive either, and there's like the open door assist and all that good stuff as well, all included in the price regardless of which model you get. I also like with the infotainment displays, not only is it stunning, but also it just is super easy to use because of the fact that you can use the click wheel while you're driving if you don't want to use the touchscreen. That makes it safer as well, in my opinion. I'm going to put it into sport mode as I approach this roundabout because I want to see what it's like in terms of when the suspension is a little bit stiffer. Let's see how well it handles it. Well, I feel like a little bit of lean. Whoa, back end a little bit there. Not bad though, it still gripped well, and I knew exactly what the car was doing in terms of its weight distribution, so it could be a lot worse for a car of this size. There's something a little bit cool as well about pressing that button and then, whoa, then you got that 10-second countdown on the dash there. Oh, around 2.3 tons. It is heavy, it does feel heavy, but I think a lot of that is just due to its kind of center of gravity, the way it sits on the ground. This isn't necessarily a fully EV platform, so it doesn't feel the same as something with a lower center of gravity, like say a GV60 for example. This has a bit more of that kind of floaty feel to it. There's a little bit of understeer as well if you floor it into a corner. It starts to get a little bit unsettled when you're going really hard on the throttle, just because of like, it's a bit of torque steer almost, just because of the sort of the mass of the car and how it sits off the ground. Now, it's nowhere near as direct as a Q6 or a Macan, but it's got that kind of more comfortable feel about it, and this is just a much classier place to sit. Yeah, brakes in the normal mode are a little bit spongy under the foot, but they still get the job done. They don't kind of bottom out and go solid like in some other EVs, but you definitely notice in the sports braking mode, which you can access through the menu, that you get more of the friction braking, so you feel a bit more involvement through the pedal, and also just a little bit sharper. And it's nice that that's adjustable, because that's not always a thing. The stereo system's pretty good, to be fair, for a standard model, and it's got a Dolby Atmos demo, which is pretty cool. There's also a decent few quality of life features. I already mentioned the quiet mode, but the display dims really softly and then comes back to full brightness when you enter and exit dark areas. And when you enter a tunnel, the GPS understands that, so it closes the vents off to make sure you don't get any fumes in the cabin. What I am going to do now, though, is put it into the virtual gears mode. So going to come out of the full sort of one pedal EV experience. I've set it to this button on the dashboard, so let's do that. So now it's put me in the virtual kind of engine mode, and it's showing me at the moment that I'm in third gear going around this corner. And there's not much engine braking anymore, so it feels a little bit more normal, and I can hear what sounds like a sort of straight six diesel. Let's go down into second, or actually maybe a petrol sound actually. That's really cool how it delivers the power actually. It's so, I mean, the engine note does fool you a little bit, but, and there is a rev counter as well, which is cool. But you feel that kind of interruption in power as you shift up. That really feels more like a normal car. That is really weird. I suppose a lot of that is placebo, but having a rev counter, having that sound, even though it does sound quite false. Let's slow right down. Let's go into first gear. That is really cool actually. And it's not like the Ioniq 5's N system where you can like bounce it off the limiter and all that stuff, but it's quite engaging, you know, using these paddles like this. And I don't know how, but it makes the car feel quicker. I guess because you've got that engine sound. The system honestly is phenomenal in the Ioniq 5N. Like, that is one of my favourite EVs so far to date because of that system. And surprisingly, it really does work here as well, even in this kind of luxury car format. It's sickeningly fast as well. Some people are going to hate this, but as a bit of a petrol head, and someone who is an advocate for EVs as a petrol head as well, I've got a Tesla myself, that is cool. I like it. But yeah, super interesting how that changes the driving experience, because it does just, it feels like it builds the power a little bit more, like an internal combustion engine would, and then it feels like it cuts the power when you shift. I love how you can rev it in park as well. Oh dear. Cruising on like this car feels nice and refined, and it's really nice to live with, honestly. Like, the mix of all the tech in here, the comfort, even this base model was more than enough equipment. It's just a shame that there's a few emissions, but you know, when these hit the used market, they can become a little bit of a bargain in terms of some of its rivals. So I do think then that this car should be really considered. The 5-year care plan, on top of all the great tech and the fact that it's quite a comfortable car, means that if you can get one for a decent price, I think it's a really, really nice daily driver. And I love all of the Genesis EVs for that reason. They're just built really solidly. The tech always works and is reliable, unlike some of the rivals. And it's just always a real talking point. Everyone loves these. Like, everyone who in my circle who enjoys kind of getting in my press cars and having a look around them, they always look forward to me having Genesis, and they always say they look expensive, feel expensive. And the fact that it's backed by good, reliable tech from Hyundai, Kia, you've got decent warranty with service included and all that good stuff, over-the-air updates all included. It just means that it's quite a comprehensive experience, and it's lovely to live with day to day. And I think these small revisions they've made for this 2025 facelift have really made a big improvement, including the new charge door, this new steering wheel, which I love, and the new screen, which I love. It's just really refined that experience that was already a nice recipe. But I have to admit though, at the sort of 60 to 70k price range, there would be something in my head that would be eating away at me saying, why didn't you look at the Macan? It'd be a bit silly not to mention the Tesla Model Y as well, considering it is the world's best-selling EV right now. But, you know, the performance isn't quite there with the standard model, and the performance isn't out just yet for the new version, so something to keep your eye on. So there we go, guys. Take that with a pinch of salt, and I trust you to go and check one of these out for yourself. And if you want to see my review of the slightly older GV70 EV, or if you want to look at any of my other reviews for cars of this segment, please do check them out on my channel. Please do check out Players Cars Premium in the description below for any used car deals that you might need. If you're looking for a new car, they are by far one of the easiest and most seamless ways of getting hold of one, and it does help out the channel as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Genesis for sending out the car as always. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see more, please do like, comment and subscribe. So for now, that's it from me. Thank you and bye-bye.